It is absolute bullshit. Your clients that do the crash dieting strategies, it doesn't work out well for the long term because they don't know how to sustain that through repetitive, consistent, helpful, positive behavior. It's the same thing with building a business, it's the same thing with everything. The person you become while you're doing the work necessary to achieve the outcome is what will allow you to sustain the outcome. And if you don't put in the muscle and the effort and the consistency to focus on that and love the process and figure out the perfect process, you're not going to be able to sustain it. I know most of you have the attention span of a goldfish, so I'm going to try to keep this as short and simple as possible. There are 6 things that you should master as a coach in 2025. And by the way, the shortcut is the long way, Alex Ramosi. And I actually have a lot to agree with that. There's a lot of stuff I don't agree with, but that's neither here nor there. So pay attention. Number 1 is you have to have a skill. I write like a 5-year-old, so that's probably the skill I need to work on. You gotta have a skill. If you can't do the thing that you're promising people, and if you don't feel confident in doing the skill that you are saying is worth a lot of money, why would anyone believe anything that you have to say? You have to say it with a sense of conviction. Once you have a skill, then you need to build the relational elements. Relational elements. What I mean by that is that you actually have to be able to build a meaningful relationship with someone in the shortest time frame as possible. The reason being is that take the average person off the street that doesn't know you and doesn't trust you, they're not going to do the things that you're saying, which then means in a service-based industry, and I'm assuming that you're an online coach or you're a personal trainer, or you try to get people to do something as it relates to a service and a desired outcome that's filling a specific need for the people that you get to serve. If you don't have any relationship, your skill set is largely irrelevant. Now, I know a lot of people that prioritize this, the relational stuff, and they actually had a successful business, although you could then argue from the ethical perspective they didn't deliver results. So therein lies they didn't have the necessary skills, but maybe those people weren't looking for an outcome and they were looking more for a relationship. Master the skill. Mastering the skill requires experience. It also requires a basic understanding of what it is that you're trying to do and how to go about navigating that process and what to do when it doesn't work. If you can't do those things, you need to go back and you need to educate yourself. You need to then gain some experience. You need to then have some persistence with that experience, and then you need to be experimental with that. Don't jump to experimental and don't jump to persistence without having education and experience to support those as foundational elements. So once you have the relational elements, then you need to start to be able to monetize. The reason being is that if you can't monetize something and you can't get some kind of value for yourself out of it, some people just like to coach because it's what they like to do. They just inherently like to help people. They like to be valuable, and maybe that's how they feel valued as an individual, as a professional, is that they get that light bulb moment. And maybe that's payment enough for some people, but most people want to get a return on the investment of time, effort, and attention that they're putting into mastering that craft or that trade, and then also what they're doing for that relationship. You have to consider that at the basis of every single transaction, or excuse me, at the basis of every single relationship is an element of transaction. I'm giving this thing to get this thing in return. If you're trying to give direction, hopefully you're looking to get out of that your own payoff, whether it's financial or interpersonal or some kind of larger generative thing, right? You got to be able to monetize it. What I mean by that is now you have to take the thing, you have to take the skill, and you have to package it in a way that becomes somewhat appealing and becomes clear around the problems that you're looking to solve, such that someone sees the value in paying you to help them solve those specific problems, right? Now, once you monetize that, the next question becomes, well, how do you grow that, right? Just because you can charge money, now maybe you have some kind of payment system, which if you're worried about the skill and how to do the thing, and in this case, let's just pretend that you're my target demographic of an online coach of some sort or an in-person personal trainer, anyone that's looking to help people improve their health status, whether it's through nutrition, fitness, health coaching, whatever, right? This is all that same stuff, and they all kind of fall under the umbrella of health improvement and performance improvement for me. You would focus on, how do you write a program? Once you know how to write a program, then the next thing you would focus on is, how do you assess to know where people fit into that program? Do they start at step 1? Do they start at step 5? Let's say crawl, walk, run. If someone's ready to run, but you're having them crawl, that person's going to not see the results they need because they're not being adequately challenged. On the other end, if you have someone that's looking to crawl and they haven't done anything whatsoever, and you're like, hey, we're going to start you out with Tabata and HIIT and all these other crazy advanced concepts that you might put in step 5 of your process, that person's probably going to wash out because they'll get injured or they'll just feel overwhelmed. So we're always trying to balance being bored with being overwhelmed, and we want to look to make sure that people are feeling challenged or supported at various times, which means that that's all the skill and that's all the relationship. If you don't have a good relationship with someone, they won't give you the feedback to improve your skills because they don't trust you, or they just have some weird story about how they deal and interact with authority figures. Doing those things, create the monetizing business aspect of it. No one wants to die a starving artist. Get good enough to start to be able to sell some stuff, figure out how to package it, and then figure out how to actually capitalize on that by looking at a top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel kind of scenario. Basically, this is how do you sell to one person at a time. This is how do you predict growth. If you can't predict and stabilize growth, it has no meaningful longevity. If the risk was 100K today, 80% chance you don't make any more money the rest of the next 2 years, most people wouldn't take that. Some people would, depending on your financial situation. But that's effectively what we're looking at, is you need to be able to predict and you need to be able to stabilize your growth. If you have no predictable way to understand what you have coming in, it really has no utility for you being able to pay your bills. And that's really the basis of foundational coaching career longevity. If you can't pay your bills doing it, you're gonna have to find something else, and we don't want you to have to do that. So you need to have some good systems around how to grow the things, the skill set or the program that you're running, the people that you're serving, the relationships you build on that, and ultimately the packaging of what that looks like, and then getting that packaging in front of enough people repeatedly in a compelling way that gets them to want to purchase the thing. By the way, let me go ahead and number these. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, here's the problem, and this is what a lot of people do, is that they try to grow their business, they try to create predictable, reliable, consistent income or revenue, but they have shit for skill sets. Now, it's unfortunate because this is being marketed in the online space by these business gurus out there that, hey, you can have a $10,000 month. Oh, you've never coached a day in your life. Don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. Here's the sales and marketing strategies that you need to have to grow your business in 2025. It's bullshit. It is absolute bullshit. And it's such a travesty that people are taking advantage of people that are looking to take the shortcut, not because it's an inherent character thing, but rather it's because they're seeing a fast track to get to an outcome that they desire. Your clients that do the crash dieting strategies, it doesn't work out well for the long term because they don't know how to sustain that through repetitive, consistent, helpful, positive behavior. It's the same thing with building a business, it's the same thing with everything. The person you become while you're doing the work necessary to achieve the outcome is what will allow you to sustain the outcome. And if you don't put in the muscle and the effort and the consistency to focus on that and love the process and figure out the perfect process, you're not going to be able to sustain it. People oftentimes will jump into here. Ah, man, I hate my job. I love personal training. Let me go and help other people do this thing because I've had my own journey. It doesn't work like that. You have to understand how the body works, how to stress the body, and how to actually rest the body. And that's from an internal program design perspective. Now you layer on another thing where if you look at like an XY axis and draw a line, right? If this is progress, right? Most people think it's like this. Unfortunately, it tends to look a little more like this. If this is what you want, then this is where you have to become more competent / skills in your coaching skills. As your coaching skills improve, your clients' results will stay this way. Not a bad thing, but they won't necessarily be up here where you want them because you focus on just one dimension. Now in a two-dimensional model, there's something else where we stop the relationship. A relationship is important if you want that person to thrive. Just because you know how to write a program, you design everything, doesn't mean that person trusts you enough, and they might not actually see that growth, right? Because they're not actually doing the thing, because they're trusting a different source of information more than they're trusting you. They're just paying you money because they gained the initial amount of trust. However, that stuff doesn't lend itself to the most longitudinal changes. So as they trust you, that's when your competency becomes more important. You cannot ask people to do a lot of complex things like track their macros, which for everyone that doesn't know what that looks like, you have to get people to log into an app. You have to get them used to the app. You have to get them used to looking at nutrition labels. You have to get them used to scanning packages. You have to get them used to weighing their food. All those things are habits that they have to build up over time. And this is where we generally look at. It takes about 20 hours to do that. Let's say we don't know that. We turn around and say, hey, client, I need you to track your food. That person's expected to go from here over to here in terms of their skills, but then there's no trust necessary to help them get there. They don't know you. All they're saying is like, you're asking me to do 50 million things, and you're not telling me it's 50 million things, you're telling me it's one thing. So this is why we want to take a skills-based approach. And that's why the relationship and the competency ultimately work. And as that happens, you get this person up here. Yay. They accomplish their goal. That's where the next person is going through, the next person is going through, and it just becomes a much more clear process for you on how you get people from point A to point B and what problem you help them solve. So once you learn how to grow, the next thing you want to learn is how to solve / troubleshoot. All you're doing when you're getting up to this point is you're creating a pretty standard program. You don't know what that program's going to look like. You don't know what obstacles are going to come up. You don't know what problems people are going to have repetitively. And so it really becomes hard for you to anticipate that. This is where most people that do group coaching, this is pretty much it. You get the program, you sell them the program. You don't change anything about the program. Maybe 10% of your people get the end result. This is where you become a valuable coach. Anyone can Google a plan, but it's a generic plan. It was written for someone somewhere that has a different set of circumstances, a different home life, a different friend group, a different social environment, a different job, a different physicality, a different cardiovascular fitness, a different, whatever. Someone might be a cat person, a dog person. My point is you get the idea that there's a lot of differences that will start to emerge. And so the idea is, how do you change the program to suit that person? That's where you really become valuable. The same way that you can buy a paper map for 15 bucks, tell you how to get from point A to point B. That's the plan. But what happens when you take a wrong turn? It's like 2 a.m. and you're driving through a bad part of town and you got crackheads walking up to your window, knocking on it while you're trying to just get to wherever it is you're going. Wouldn't make the most sense. Right now, the problem is that most people think when they buy the workout template, when they're trying to lose 50 pounds, which is a pretty long goal. If you think about that, might be equivalent to taking a road trip across the country. It's going to take a long period of time, relatively speaking, compared to going to the grocery store that's 15 minutes away. A 30-hour drive is no joke. So there are a lot of opportunities for you to take wrong turns there. Every wrong turn is going to extend how long that trip is going to take. And if you have no map and you have no plan, eventually most consumers usually just give up, and it's usually pretty quick. If you can't find your way north out of the city, why would you try to go to the next state, the next state, the next state? And that's the same sequence of events that happens when we write coaching programs, and that's why we have to continuously do these assessments, because we don't want to be a paper map. That's a $15 a month program. Doesn't change for you, right? But what happens when you take a wrong turn? How do you get back on the wagon? And that's why troubleshooting the process is so important, because now you have to get in there, and on top of that, this is where, we started to go and have a different outcome than what we wanted. How do we guide you back on track? And that requires someone that has a very great skill set, right? You've done this enough times where you know what's going to happen. You have a great foundational understanding of physiology and psychology to help that person make those meaningful changes. An example of that might be when someone's going to change the program. They said, hey, you didn't lose any weight this week or this last month, right? Did a month-long program, no weight change. What we're going to do is we're going to put you in a more drastic deficit. That would make sense. When we consider that that person's home life might have been crazy that month. Maybe they had a lot of travel for work, which we see in a lot of the executives that I coach. There are so many different things that could come up that could be a problem that was an obstacle to doing the work. But rather than solving the obstacle, like, hey, You were very lonely. You wanted to go on some dates. When you're on dates, you drink a lot. Drinking a lot adds extra calories and negates some of the work and also hurts your hormones. How about we do this instead? We're going to keep the same workout plan, right? And we're going to ask and create some interventions for you to feel more socially connected. That is a very different coaching experience than someone like, we're going to increase your sets and we're going to make you do more cardio. That's just not what we need in 2025. We need to see that people are able to connect with their clients. And if you can't, you become less valuable because the problems you're solving aren't really the problems. I have a soapbox on that. Anyways, obviously you can tell I'm passionate about connecting and making sure people get exactly what they need, which is why I charge a lot more. I charge 10 times the amount of the average coach in the space because I deliver 10 times the results in 75%, in a 4x speed. So rather than taking 1 year to achieve something, I take 3 months to achieve it. And most people will pay for that because I understand what all this other stuff looks like, right? I have the experience, I have the education, and that's what we're trying to bring you with these things. If you're an end user consumer, meaning you're the person that's looking to buy our programs at Empowered You, I love that for you. This is where you have to understand how these things shape up though, yeah? Cool. So then number 6, this is the coolest part about being a coach, is that eventually you start to find that people want to do the thing that you're doing. This is where you have to have a deeper understanding because you can only teach people to the level that you yourself know. And this is why when you think about academia, usually you have to have a master's degree to teach bachelor's. You have to have a doctoral degree to teach master's degree students. Or you have to have one level up. If you're just a basic personal trainer and you have a CPT and that's all you know, you don't understand physiology, you don't understand anatomy, you're going to have to learn those things. And this is why one of the most valuable things you can learn in 2025 is how does the body actually work? And you want to join us for our anatomy and physiology masterclass that's going to be happening across the next couple months. If you want the answers, if you want the link, make sure you just comment anatomy and we'll send you a link. We'll send you some more information on that. But if you want to make more money and you want to truly be able to generate wealth, you have to be able to make money while you sleep. That means you have to have something, whether it's a program or another person, to do something or deliver something that you can then monetize. And that's where usually being a mentor is going to help you do that. You start to build your team. Someone that you have as a client has such a great experience and now they want to become a coach. And that's one of the coolest, best, biggest compliments you can get as a professional. That's one of the best things that you can do for yourself in 2025 is be such a great experience for someone that they want to do the things that you're doing as well. Again, at the end of the day, you have to be able to do the skill, get good at the skill enough, build the relationship at the skill you're working on, which, I mean, theoretically, you can even say that the skill and the relational stuff is part of a skill, right? Then you have to be able to package it. Then you have to be able to package it and get it in front of people reliably, consistently, in order for people to then want to do that thing. So then you need to be able to change the thing as it's not working so that way people get what they're paying for, which isn't the program, it's not the coaching, it's the outcome. People want the result at the end of the day. Some people just don't know which results they're looking for. That's a different conversation. And that's the last thing is you want to deliver such a great experience that people also want to do the thing that you're doing. And that's how you high-five yourself, and that's how you really find the fulfillment of knowing that you've made it and that you are making a positive impact and growing your community and ultimately making sure that people are also having a great time. And then they turn around and get to positively impact their communities. So I hope that makes sense. These are the things that you need to know as to how to build yourself as a coach in 2025. If some of you are already good with the skills, work on packaging, right? If you're good with packaging, worry about growing that thing and doing it repeatedly such that it becomes a no-brainer. And then if you're already good at that stuff, go deeper. A lot of people want to go wide, which is why they really don't have a lot of the same impact. We want to go deep in 2025. Pick 1 or 2 things, master them this year, and watch how your success takes off in 2025 and 2026. If you guys want more information, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on the alerts if you want to stay up to date on this content. It really makes a huge difference for us. And make sure you share this with someone that you think would find this valuable. We'll see you guys in the next one.